believe in the woman's choice. I believe in the right to choose.
So when does that line, I guess, when is there a line of, this is why it's wrong to say?
I mean, I've talked to many people that are pro-choice about this. I believe.
Again, little things. What did she say? I've talked to a lot of people who are pro-choice about this. I'm sure you have, hon. But the idea is that you're supposed to talk to people who are pro-life about this as well, so that you understand where they are coming from. So when you're in this position, you are not just arguing based on these flimsy rhetorical points of view. All right, welcome back, everybody, to another edition of IDRYB Reacts. I am your host, Lutch, and today we are going to be reacting to a clip from the Louder with Crowder video where he was walking around the street talking to people about the Roe v. Wade leak. So for those of you who have not heard, you must be living under a rock. There was a leak from the Supreme Court on a potential upcoming decision where they are going to overturn Roe v. Wade, which would kick back the decision of what to do about schmushmartion back to the states. So there would be, it doesn't mean that it would federally ban it. It doesn't mean that it would federally do anything. It would just kick it back to the states, and the states would then be able to decide for themselves what is allowed in their state. And so his premise was that he thinks most people think that it is an overwhelming federal ban. I did watch this entire stream. This is just a clip from it. The video that we're going to be reacting to is just a clip from it. But I did watch the entire thing, which is about an hour. And Crowder was pretty much wrong. He talked to people, and most people seem to understand that's exactly what Roe v. Wade being overturned meant. There was somebody who I think was not too sure, but again, didn't really say that that it was going to be illegal everywhere. I just think they didn't know. And so on that end, you know, he didn't follow through with his hypothesis. And it isn't that people think it is a nationwide ban, but still people were very upset. So in this particular exchange, he was talking to a young couple. And I think as being somebody who is pro-choice, but anti-schwanzwashing, then I think that it's important to understand, no matter what your position is, to understand the position of the other side. As recently as today, I saw somebody replying to some tweet about the whole issue, talking about a parasite and, you know, a clump of cells and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, how do you not at this point understand that even if you believe that, to claim that is begging the question? That is the question. Where is this where is this personhood? When does life begin? You may decide it begins when there's a heartbeat, or when there's sentience, or when the umbilical cord is cut, or whenever it is. That's fine for you to have that position. But what you need to understand is that other people don't believe the same thing. Other people genuinely believe the moment that sperm hits the egg and creates new DNA, people such as myself, believe that is the only rational place to say, okay, this is when life starts, and therefore this is new, unique DNA, and therefore in all relevant contexts, this is a life. It is not just a zygote. It is not just a clump of cells. It is not a parasite. It is not any of these things. So to claim that, you know, you can do whatever you want because it's X, Y, Z, that is the entire debate. And you can fall on either whichever side you want. But coming to the table and arguing that your side is right because your side is right is not only disingenuous, but it's very ignorant. So enough of me blabbering. Let's jump right into the video.
Let me ask you this, because there are people, for example, those who get four people there, you know, African Americans, who have.
How do you know they're four? This is African American.
I said four.
Oh, four. They said four.
Ooh.
Notice already how homeboy, this is the first sentence. He didn't even get through the first sentence. And because it's Crowder, they're already ready to jump on him for being some racist, this, that, the other. He said earlier in the video, he talked to four people. It was 3 guys and a woman who happened to be African-American. 2 of them were married with 4 kids. Why you would hear poor black people? Who's the racist there? Just saying.
So their point of view was, okay, they were pro-choice. And then she was a mother of 4. When I asked her about the Texas heartbeat bill, she said, well, yeah, of course, after a heartbeat, because she did an ultrasound, she said, that's a separate heart. Whose heart are you stopping? My question to you is this, because I know you're coming in hot and
I'm not coming in hot. I'm really speaking like, I'm not coming in hot. I'm not
but
like
Before
you
you-
understand the other
before you
perspective where someone
finish-
says,
So, but this, okay, I don't think this was, if I'm remembering correctly, this may not be the very, very beginning of when he's talking to these people. I think they may have been talking before this, and then he was getting flustered, and then Crowder turned his sights to the girl, who was not any less uppity, but she seemed more willing to actually engage in the conversation instead of try to have like a gotcha moment.
one does, certainly more than half the country believe at a limitation at some point that at a certain point, it's no longer your own body. That's their argument, and that's why the Supreme Court has said it's bad law, and states should have the right to enforce those regulations. No, I'll let the woman speak.
Will the fetus survive if it's outside?
Again, he's trying to jump in. Crowder's talking to his girl, and he has to jump in. Let the woman speak for herself. It's funny how, and when you, for the group that talks about microaggressions, already this guy is just chomping at the bit. Champing at the bit. I hate the fact that it is champing at the bit. Champing at the bit to catch Crowder doing something when he's the one being the asshole. When even as a fan of Crowder is the asshole of all assholes. I mean, being hyperbolic, but in this situation, he is clearly the asshole. Yet homeboy is giving him a run for his money.
Of your body?
So you don't have any children, right?
No, I don't.
Because a baby won't survive outside of the body.
No, it's relying on your body.
Right.
And that's again another great point. The a lot of the pro-choice arguments, and again, I am pro-choice. I don't believe the government has the right to get in your medical treatments. That's as far as it needs to go in terms of the government. Now, I am not in favor of the action of Schwarzschild because I do in fact think you're ending a life. But that's, there's extenuating circumstances. There's crazy. It's a very complex issue. And I would hope that people would take every step that they could to avoid that. But if that comes to be a rational decision in your life, then who am I and who is the government to stand in your way? But again, the issue is that other people think that you're legitimately committing murder. And so to act as if it's not is just either intellectually lazy or intellectually dishonest because you're not engaging with the actual argument. And a lot of times the argument will be, oh, well, as long as it's surviving on my body, as the woman, as long as it's surviving on my body, then it's my body and my body, my choice. But that ignores the obvious fact that once a baby is born, like it can't just survive on its own. You need to feed it. You need to take care of it. It's not a deer where it just comes out and ready to go. You have to take care of a baby. If you don't do anything, the baby will die. So this idea of sustenance and being able to self-sustainable and all that kind of stuff, that's just not the case. That's not how this stuff works.
A baby won't survive outside of the body, but I mean, a baby delivered naturally won't survive outside of the body.
I mean,
But we're talking about fetus right now.
I'm talking about fetus.
So what changes from, let's say, 8 weeks and 6 days, 8 months, 3 weeks, 6 days, to 9 months? Is it just inside, outside the womb that makes it a person?
Well, one's a fetus and one's a baby.
But why is one a fetus if it's
It's not.
if it's just 1 day shy of 9 months?
It's not relying
Well, we're
on
not
your body to your umbilical cord. And once it's out,
Again, we just covered this, that even though it's not directly taking nutrients from your body, you're still theoretically breastfeeding. I mean, if you're using formula, that's a very recent modern advancement in medical science. So that can't be how we determine an age-old question. But she's going to go back to it. So
outside and cut as
So
a
is
baby.
that what defines the person as the umbilical cord?
My opinion, yeah.
So what if a woman gives birth and they haven't cut the cord yet? Does that mean they can abort the baby?
And here's the other thing. If she wants to take the position that until you cut the umbilical cord, it is not a human, I would strongly disagree, but at least that would be consistent. But we'll see here how constantly she's not looking to say, okay, I've done whatever thinking, research about this, that I've been able to rationally come to the conclusion that life begins when the umbilical cord is cut, and therefore whatever else follows. That's not her point. That's just something she's saying to try to not be wrong. Instead of worrying about engaging in the conversation and being intellectually honest, she's worried about winning the conversation. And, I can't blame anybody, especially Steven Crowder is very good at riling people up. But is this your best? It's not like this is coming out of nowhere. People have been thinking about this. So you would expect people to at least have some recency of the logic that goes behind this and checking themselves. But that's the issue. Nobody checks themselves. They just go with whatever makes them feel right, whatever their friends say, whatever it is that's easiest, that's what people will go with.
Nobody's even talking about aborting like a baby that's still on the cord.
It actually does exist. It actually does exist. There was a bill.
But we have like so many billions of people in the world.
It was a bill.
And again, moving the goalpost. Nobody's talking about ending fetuses. And then he says, well, actually, there are. Changing the goalpost.
Is that what defines person? I mean, the point that other people are defining person, and people define it differently. I understand that. For example, these African Americans said, okay, heartbeat, they agree with the Texas bill. Some people think it's after the first trimester. But at a certain, what would you define when it's a person?
Why is it called the heartbeat bill?
Because that's when you can detect a fetal heartbeat.
Can you detect a fetal heartbeat at 6 weeks?
Yes.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so what is your argument?
You used to be able to, but you can now with more advanced ultrasound. And I just had twins, so yeah, I know for a fact.
What is your argument?
No, my question is, can you understand? In other words,
so again, she's like, why do you think they call it the heartbeat bill? Which, of course, the answer is because that's when you can detect a heartbeat. And her thinking is to ask this without knowing. Why would you ask the question? If you're trying to make the point that, okay, fine, we're waiting for a heartbeat, and I know that a heartbeat is further down the road. If you don't know that, then why are you bringing that up as a point? When clearly that's score one for pro-lifers, that at 6 weeks, it's another heartbeat. And a lot of people, regardless of your political affiliation, will feel like when there is another heartbeat, that it is another person. And so this just goes to not to mention, she completely just dodged the question he was asking her and just came in with the, why do you think they call it the heartbeat bill? Let's continue.
Those people who were horrified right at the idea of aborting a baby after a heartbeat. Then there are a lot of Americans who believe that, okay, once it has its own fingers, toes, sex, there are people who believe like I do.
I believe in the woman's choice. I believe in the right to choose.
So when does that line, I guess, when is there the line of, and this is why it's going to states?
I mean, I've talked to many people that are pro-choice about this. I believe.
Again, little things. What did she say? I've talked to a lot of people who are pro-choice about this. I'm sure you have, hon. But the idea is that you're supposed to talk to people who are pro-life about this as well, so that you understand where they are coming from. So that when you're in this position, it's over here for me, but when you're in this position, then you are not just arguing based on these flimsy rhetorical points of view. That's the point. Stop only talking to people who agree with you. Talk to somebody who doesn't agree with you so that you know what the hell you're talking about.
A woman has the right to abort a child whenever they want.
So all the way up until 9 months, including birth?
Yeah.
And you don't believe that baby is a person at 8 months, 7, even though they could be born and viable? Because you said viability earlier. They are viable. It's viable at 21 weeks.
If it's a person,
moving the goalpost.
If it's still in your body, you have the choice to do what you want with your body.
Now, if it's still in your body, you have a choice. That, again, is a valid argument. It just happens not to be the one that she was making. I definitely agree that as long as it's inside your body, then there is at least considerations that need to be taken before we are legislating what the government can do. I'm perfectly on board with that, but that is not the argument that she was making.
What determines a person, in your body or outside of your body?
Well, once it's delivered, you carry it. Okay, first of all, nobody really wants to abort a child at 8 months.
Yeah, it does. It happens all the time.
For many reasons.
Of course, this dude is smoking his own rolled up cigarettes. Them bugles, right? Just saying.
If they,
I've had a couple friends with abortions. There's never 8 months. There's always like when they find out. My problem also with this abortion bill is that it's making it so.
Why do they want to abort the child at 8 months?
We're shifting the goalpost, right? I'm saying it does happen, and there are states that restrict it, but there are some states that don't. My question is, would you restrict it then if you're saying
no?
Okay, so someone should be able to abort at 8 months, 9 months.
If that's what they choose.
Okay. Why?
Why? Because it's their body, so it's their choice.
So
it's a person who
is it though? That's begging the question. This is an age-old logical fallacy. The question is it her body or is it the baby, the child, their body? That is the question. So to say, well, it's her body, so she gets to choose. That is the question. You can't answer the question with the question. And it's bad enough to answer a question with any question, but you can't answer the question you're being asked with that exact question and think that you've made a point. That's not how language works.
To have a child, so it's their choice.
So if a woman is 8 months pregnant, using your premise, since we've gone to this. Does that woman have 20 fingers? Does she have 20 toes? Does she have a penis? If it's a boy?
What does
she
that
have two
matter?
brains?
What does that matter?
Well, because you're ending the life, the functioning life.
So sorry to interrupt your podcast experience. I just want to remind you, if you're enjoying what you're watching, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content. And if you really love it, there's some support links in the description. I would love if you could help out the channel. And back to the show. And to be fair, again, I have watched this already. To be fair, you'll see she doesn't quite understand the point of the question, even though it's a valid question. The fact is, if I was in her position and I didn't understand why I was being asked this question, and you can look back at many of the live streams and things that I've done, I will specifically say, I don't understand how that's relevant. Now, why does that matter? And little things like that do matter. When you're talking to other people specifically about A, something that's so contentious, and B, someone that you know doesn't agree with you, but you're trying to have a civil conversation, then coming at it with this energy is just like, what are you trying to accomplish? Why did you stop and talk to him? You didn't do any of this kind of research. You know that he did. You know that he's looking for people who don't know what they're talking about to make himself look better. So why did you stop and talk to him? Arrogance? Thinking you know more than you know? I don't know. What do you think? Why do you think that this couple specifically stopped to talk to Steven Crowder?
Of another human being that has all those things. So I'm saying you're saying it's her body, so that woman has 20 toes.
What does that matter?
It's not her body if she doesn't have 20 fingers and toes.
Oh, you're saying 10 fingers plus her 10 fingers, that's 20 fingers.
So is it still the woman's body?
It's her child, it's her body,
Well,
so
is it her
it's her
child or is it her
choice.
body?
Both.
Boom! Is it her child or is it her body? It is her child. It is not her body. Again, as a pro-choice individual, I don't really think that matters because the government doesn't have the right to say whatever they want. They don't have the right to get in the middle of that. But it's either her child or her body. If you look up the definitions of a body and a child, they are mutually exclusive. I mean, unless you're talking about the child's body. But in this context, it cannot be her body if it's the child's body. It is either her child or her body.
Well, it's one or the other. A child is not her body.
But who
Her body has to be
decides
separate from
when
her
it's a child? Probably the person that's carrying.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether you would call it a child or a fetus. I know this is what it comes down to. Is it a child or a fetus? In my opinion, when it's in your body, the medical idea of what you call it, a fetus, is a fetus. If you aborted me when I was a fetus, I'm not gonna fucking blame, because I don't fucking know. Because I'm not fucking
So I don't care about what dude's saying about his own life. This guy's showing that he at least is understanding the context that I'm talking about of not everybody believes that it is her own body, but there's still an unwillingness to grapple with the reality of what that means. Usually you'll get to that, if you can even get to that point, like, well, yeah, but still I don't care. And at least, somebody like me, I'm aware of the fact that that can come off a little bit cold to say that, yes, this is a human life, but that as the mother, you have the right in certain circumstances to end that life. But that is still logically consistent with everything else that I've said. So personally, I don't even care what you believe. This isn't necessarily one of the strongest issues for me. Obviously not having a uterus and not planning on impregnating anybody soon, it makes sense. But at the same time, this is a very big issue in the larger cultural context, the culture war, as it were. And so I think a lot of people who do care about this on both sides are going to be willing to support their conclusion to some pretty extreme ends. And that's why it matters to me personally. And that's why I think it should matter to you, even if you, again, regardless of your position on the issue itself.
Because you said child or her body. There's a big difference. Is it a child? I'm trying to understand where you're coming from.
You're not in this
Where they
world
came
yet.
from.
I don't think you're actually trying to understand where I'm coming from.
Well, I asked you.
And this, again, this is the most frustrating stuff because the projection of saying that the guy out here literally trying to have the conversation with you and not tearing you apart the way he could. Again, even if you disagree with him, the arguments that he could make would make you look even worse than you already look. But he's not doing that. He's legitimately trying to understand. And of course, he's making content for his conservative channel. So he's going to be a little, he's going to get his little digs in there and whatever. But I mean, if you think this is anything close to the worst of conversations about this topic specifically or political discourse at all, this is very mild. This is very civil. And so for her to say, I don't think you're really trying to do that, it's just a projection, because it seems that she is the one who's not really trying to have the conversation. She is the one who has her mind made up and will say whatever she needs to say to stick to that.
You understand where they're coming from, because I was 4 people. Can you understand where they say, well, it's a separate heartbeat, so I understand some kind of restriction?
Yeah, but I also think maybe they just aren't fully knowledgeable on the entirety of the...
Oh, Jesus. Oh, no. She's saying the 4 black people that he talked to aren't as knowledgeable because they don't agree with her. Now, if he were to say that, now I understand that she is just talking about 4 people who differ from her opinion, and she believes her opinion is right. And so the logical conclusion is if they don't agree with her, that they're not knowledgeable. I know that because I'm smart and I'm not looking for wokeness and looking to cancel whoever I can. But you damn well better believe that if somebody on the right, if Crowder was like, well, you know, they don't really know, even without any other context to it. Oh, just because they're black, how do I know that? Because at the very start of this video, what did homeboy do? What? Because they're black, they're poor? It's like, no, what? Who said that? This is the hypocrisy. This is the double standard. This is the semantic obfuscation. This is all of that stuff that I talk about, all in one, right here.
Texas bill that was passed for 6 weeks.
4 black people.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know them. I didn't talk to them.
But there are a lot of Americans who think there should be a limitation. You understand that your view is considered, you know, as extreme left, extreme right is no abortions, even in the case of rape and incest. Yours is abortion up until 9 months. That's considered a pretty radical view, and so I'm curious to understand where you draw. And it seems to me like you're.
So if you accept that your position is extreme or fringe, then and I have some pretty fringe ideas here or there, you know, when it especially when it comes to religion and getting rid of it. There's some things that I probably would be very happy with that people would consider extreme. But because that is the case, then the burden falls on me to normalize those ideas and not just say that, oh, if you don't agree with you must not know. That's some like Alex Jones type shit where like, oh, no, you don't know if frogs are gay, you don't know anything. It's like, well, dude, not all of us spend all of our lives digging through dirt sheets of conspiracy theories and trying to connect these dots of not everybody does that. But here you are with something that's so important to you. Why not just use contraception? I've had sex. I know it's not the same with a rubber, but there's like 30 different options. Even at the worst, the Plan B pill, using that as contraception, is not going to be good on your body, but schmortion probably isn't either. And not probably, definitely isn't either. And but it's, there's another sentiment on the pro-choice side that pregnancy just happens. And these poor women just happen upon pregnancy and they can't support it because you know why I don't have a brand new car? You know why my car is from 2015? Because I can't afford a car from 2020. That's why I don't have a car from 2020. People who can't afford children, you know what you should do? Instead of ending the life of another being after, you should just not create that being in the first place. I don't think that's too much to ask. I think for you to say that I am so irresponsible that I can't even prevent new life from being formed. You wear your seatbelt in the car, don't you? You brush your teeth every morning. I mean, these may not be your favorite activities, but the consequences of not brushing your teeth one day are much lower than having unprotected sex. And even in the car example, it could be pretty severe if you don't wear a seatbelt. But the fact is, you choose to do it not because it's going to happen, but because it might happen. And if you don't want what might happen to happen, then it's your responsibility to take precautions. And I feel like this is just lost. And I'm not saying be abstinent. I was at the Reason Rally 2016 fighting against schools teaching abstinence as sexual education. I don't think that works. I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, I don't think, promiscuity is the best thing in the world, but I don't think expecting an entire generation of people to be abstinent until they're a certain age or until they're married is reasonable. I get that. But on an individual basis, no individual person has a specific reason to just be irresponsible. Irresponsibility is going to be a part of humanity and society, but that doesn't make it excusable. The fact that people are irresponsible doesn't make it okay that people are irresponsible.
And this is a question that I am trying to understand. What makes it acceptable when it's a baby that is totally viable, because that's what you brought up first, is completely viable outside of the womb. There's no debate at this point, right?
It's still connected to her body.
So it's the umbilical cord.
Can I bring something
Yeah,
up real quick?
it's that the fetus is still relying on the nutrients of her body to survive.
Right.
So it's her choice to end that pregnancy.
So it is
So, and this may be right where he's going, but again, the point we were making before, because it's taking nutrients from her body, it's her right to stop giving those nutrients and end that life. So when the baby is born and the umbilical cord is cut and the only nutrients this baby is getting is from her body, does she still have the right to end that? According to her logic, she's saying yes. But of course, I can't imagine. I mean, again, I saw this already, but I didn't study it. I can't imagine that Crowder goes anywhere else to ask the same question I did. And let's see.
exclusively that a baby is relying on the nutrients of the mother, because we both know the baby is relying entirely on the mother's capabilities.
Well, once
For a
the
year, 2
once the
years
baby
after.
is born and once it's not connected to that person, then
The baby's
it's-
relying on the mother's nutrients at that point, right? Mother's
no,
milk.
not necessarily. No.
Because of modern technology, but for a long
Yeah.
time, they had to be breastfed. They're still reliant upon the mother's nutrients.
Can I bring something up real quick?
Well, not the mother that you don't necessarily have to be the mother that birthed the child to keep the child alive.
Right, but it's reliant upon the nutrients of another woman. You said it's on
So
reliant upon the actual nutrients of
what's
another body.
difference between the now child breastfeeding versus the child who is relying on the nutrients inside the body?
It's like
Exactly. There is no difference. But you, Miss Brownshirt, are saying that one, it's okay to end their life, and one, it's not. Where is the logic? Make it make sense.
saying. Yeah. Well, it's the person that had the child inside their body is. Where am I going?
We're
Beautiful question. I don't think any of us know. Where am I going with this? Like, you're just talking to talk. You've been proven wrong, and instead of just saying, you've given me a lot to think about. I still don't necessarily agree with you, but you've given me a lot to think about. And I don't have any better answers for you now, but I'm going to go home and think about this and blah, 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 blah. That should be the end of the conversation. When you say, where am I going with this? And you have no idea what you're talking about with somebody who clearly does know what they're talking about, who disagrees with you about something, then maybe it's time to go home and question what it is that you think. Doesn't mean that you have to agree with him, but you sure as shit should know why you don't.
we've been drinking, but can I bring something up?
We've been drinking, so that's why I'm so stupid.
You brought up the war on drugs earlier and how it was ineffective because we poured all this money into it and we really heavily criminalized like drugs and to like an extreme extent, and it never worked. It actually made the problem worse. If you read any white papers, like any research paper on abortion and like limiting abortions, no matter what your ideal of like how conception or when it becomes a baby, abortions like throughout anywhere that abortion's been criminalized, they still happen. When you criminalize them, then you have the problems we're facing right now in the drug world. It's fentanyl, and I've lost 3 friends in 2 years from fentanyl. But in abortions, it's going to be illegal abortions because people are still going to be desperate and still going to.
And I think this guy's making a good point here. I think the war on drugs obviously was a huge failure, but we're not talking about harmless. Again, arguably, what's harmless? That is the question. You guys on the side of not believing that life begins at conception don't think that there's any violence involved in this. But that is the question. If you consider Shoshwarshan to be murder, then it's not the same as just ingesting drugs. There's no one being harmed if I'm sitting at home smoking weed. Even if I decide to become a heroin addict and shoot up with a bad batch that's got too much fentanyl and I die, then that's still my body. So that is more a case of my body, my choice than Shmushmorshin. I do think he makes a good point, but because it's not the same, then I think what would be more analogous is the fact that murders still happen. Even though it's illegal, murders still happen. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. The fact that it is illegal and the fact that it comes with such a heavy penalty absolutely is a deterrent. If we don't think that murder rates would go up with a change in laws that made it less harsh of a punishment, or a broader definition where if you kill somebody in this circumstance and it's not murder or whatever. We already see that Democratic stronghold cities that are being light on crime and giving bond to domestic terrorists and stuff like that, that crime does go up. So yes, there's a good point that making extortion illegal is not going to stop them all from happening. That is true. However, that is not a good enough reason to just say, well, let's let people do it anyway. Because unlike ingesting drugs, where you're only affecting yourself, you arguably are injuring somebody else. And so a better analogy would be the deterrence of murder, which I think, again, is a pretty strong one.
Have them, and people are still gonna die and be like, hard.
Now I'm 21.
That won't be illegal.
Right now I'm 21. I can't afford to have a child, but if I were pregnant, I couldn't afford to have a child. I would get.
So don't have a child. Don't get pregnant. Don't do that. That's what you should do.
An abortion, a safe, legal abortion, it would allow me to have a child in the future because I didn't have to harm my own body to abort this child.
Right.
So if a safe, easy abortion, legal, would ensure that I was able to have a child in the future. So why I don't
understand the question. Are you asking me a question?
No, I'm just making a point.
Okay. Because I was still waiting. I'm just waiting for the answer to the question.
Are you though?
Regarding the breastfeeding and umbilical cord, and I understand you were talking about fentanyl abortions a little more.
If you're taking away safe legal abortions, then if someone has no choice and can't afford a child and still.
Let's be honest about this. It's just, I think.
I would just have to raise the child and take care of it. And what a conservative's nightmare. Is that what you want, Mr. Conservative, for me to actually raise the child? And this is how oblivious people are. And I get it. This is some 21-year-old girl he found in the street. I'm sure he talked to 10 times as many people that he put in the full video. And I'm sure he picked the worst ones. I understand how the internet works. But the fact is, this is a real human being who has real opinions, who has the right to vote. This is real. And so, and a lot of people agree with her. So it's not the fact that this is the epitome and this is the top of the pro-choice argumentation, but this is what people are thinking.
Let me finish. So if it was not legal to have an abortion and a person is still able to go out and have what we call a back alley abortion, could ruin their body for the rest of their life. They're not going to be able to have a child in the future because it fucked up their uterus. So a safe legal abortion would ensure that that child or that person could have a child in the future.
Or not getting pregnant in the first place.
Not necessarily.
Why?
The correlation equaling causation in a safe legal abortion, and there's of course the argument to be made that it's never safe for the baby involved. But there are.
That's a fantastic point that I didn't even think of. The entire argument is that it's not solely about the woman, that there is another person involved. And so to say a safe abortion is just like saying a safe murder. It's not safe for the person who's being murdered. And again, I agree with that sentiment. I just don't agree with the powers of the government. I wish people on their own would decide not to do this kind of thing. But that's a fantastic point that I never really thought of.
Their choices, it wouldn't insure anything, because what does insure it is contraception, abstinence, motherhood, adoption.
Abstinence doesn't work. Everybody knows that.
Okay, I gave you 3 other options.
Again, disingenuous arguing. He listed 4 things. What do you say? Contraception, adoption, motherhood, or adoption. I don't know, whatever. And of course, and abstinence. Of course, he picks the one that we all agree doesn't work. It doesn't work. But there's then 3 other options, dude. What's your argument?
Can I tell you, adoption?
I don't know about you, but there's never been a single baby from people who haven't been having sex.
Yeah, but we're all human and everybody has sex. And you try to teach kids about abstinence like they taught us in Texas, and it doesn't work. And a lot of people get pregnant when they're young because they don't know anything about it.
And again, I was right there arguing that that abstinence should not be taught in schools as the only form of safe sex. It's like that scene in The Office. Like, oh, what's the safest way to go skiing? Don't ski. That's not a real way to engage with the issue of young people having sex. But you're no longer that young child. You know better now. You're clearly having sex because you're very worried about this. So, and he just listed off these options, and you didn't say contraception. What's that? So where's the personal responsibility?
They get pregnant if they're not practicing abstinence. Yes, I agree with you.
But who practices abstinence? Are you going to be a monk? Do you practice abstinence?
I've written about it extensively, yeah.
Yeah,
Before I was
you
married.
practice it?
Yeah, before I was married, yeah. A lot of people do.
To each their own. But
Well, you just made an
most
argument that
people
said to each their own. Yeah. I said for
Well,
abstinence,
yeah,
abstinence,
well, you know.
abstinence.
Exactly. Bringing up a point. Why are you bringing up the point if he's abstinent or if you don't know how that helps you or hurts your argument? It hurts your argument because, oh, nobody does that. Do you do that? Yes, I did do that. Now I'm married. Okay, so it's not a strong argument either way, but it just still makes you look dumb for bringing it up for no reason.
Most people don't
A
do that.
teenager in high school, if you tell them to never have sex, well, of course they're going to have
And a lot
sex.
of
Well, I
people
think
don't
you say
have
abstinence,
And you
contraception.
never teach the person.
Again, moving the goalposts. They're talking about what teenagers, young children will do if you teach them only abstinence. That is nowhere on the docket. Nobody is saying that abstinence is the only way in this context. She's now straw manning the pro-life position as an abstinence-only position, and that's not what it is.
Or the child in high school how to have safe sex.
Right.
That's the whole point of
I'm not
abstinence. Right?
advocating for it. I think I was
I don't
pretty
really
clear.
give a
I brought up the other choices
We're about to
outside
go
of
somewhere,
abortion,
but
right?
where else?
I don't really give a shit. Yeah. I don't know what your point is.
And there it is. I don't really give a shit. You don't give a shit. You just want to be right. You want to think what you think. You don't want to have to engage with the reality of what you just want what's convenient for you. She said it herself. She said it herself.
Said
Can we wrap
that
it up?
choice of safe, legal, and rare
Now
abortion.
we're just spiraling out of control.
We
Here.
said the choice of safe, legal, and rare
Agreed.
abortion would ensure, and I was saying there
Can
are
we
other
bring it
options
back
that
and
ensure
wrap it up real quick?
Yeah,
abstinence,
absolutely.
contraception. No, hold on a second, let me finish. Abstinence, contraception, motherhood, adoption. Abortion's not required to ensure it. You
No,
understand? Because you use the word
I'm
required
sure
to ensure.
I'm
people
sure
that
you're
were
aware
in-
that there are states that are making contraceptives illegal.
No, I'm not.
You're not aware of that?
There's
There are
been
no,
multiple
there are
times.
no states right now that make contraception illegal.
Yeah, but
Well, you
this
know
is
they're
your
trying.
Again, bringing up something, well, states are, it's illegal in some states. Is it though? Do you think that he would know that and have a response to that? Don't you think that's something that you shouldn't bring up unless you know what the hell you're talking about? And then what happens? He says, actually, no, that's not. And what does she say?
Trying to, right?
Let's go
So
back.
now
Been multiple
there are no
times.
states right now that make contraception illegal.
Yeah, but
Well, you
this
know
is
they're
your
trying to, right?
Okay, so now we change the goalposts.
No, this
No,
is
that's
what we're talking
that's
about.
literally what I just
Mississippi
said.
right now.
There
Can we bring it back and wrap it up on whatever?
Yeah, no, I thought we just did bring it back. You brought it back to
Yeah.
the war on drugs, that you were studying human rights abroad and can't afford a house, and that's a human right on the internet. And I think we're going in a lot of different directions. Where I wanted to just have a conversation about Roe v. Wade,
Yeah.
and I appreciate you going these
You
different
smoke
directions.
nicotine? You can smoke if you want.
That's okay. I appreciate it though.
Mhm.
Thanks for offering. But I think I understand where you guys line up on Roe v. Wade, and I think that there's a divide in this country, and
There is a
states are going to be able to
It's
establish
sad,
their
but-
laws.
My point is I mean, you're not able to carry a child
Mhm.
because I'm assuming that you are a man without a uterus.
Why?
And oh, okay.
Because
Well,
you're Steven Crowder and you're
because
on
you're
the
fucking
Steven
Steven
Crowder
Crowder, and I know you have a penis.
You don't have a penis.
Oh well, I don't. Never mind. It doesn't really.
No.
You can show it so quick if you want to prove it.
No, that's a felony.
We're okay with it. We're consenting.
It doesn't matter. The other people here aren't
I'll show you mine if you consent.
That's the last thing I want to see.
It's pretty big.
He never
Good
goes
for
to
you.
the doctor, so maybe.
Yeah, maybe it's because he lays it on the microwave. So
No, maybe because he.
I'm a man. I'll go with it. I'm a man. I'm a man.
I'm
Let me guess. You're not saying because I'm a man I shouldn't have an opinion on abortion, right?
Well,
Do you have an opinion on murder, theft, arson? Come on. It's a silly argument. but
You can have
I
it.
appreciate
We're all entitled to
Yeah,
opinions. but-
thank you, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. You guys have a good day. Be safe.
So what do you think, guys? Do you think that this is a good argument? Do you think this is just a bad representation of a good position? Are you pro-choice? Are you pro-life? And when do you think life begins? Let me know in the comments below. Let's get this conversation going. Don't forget about those support links. If you can't do that, of course, it is free to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And even if you don't want to do that, thank you so much for watching. And you can just sit at home, think about how great I am and how awesome this channel is, and that'd be fine too. Until next time, don't forget to follow me at IDRYBlutch. I am out of here. Peace.